If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is the Delphi Murders Case Series, Episode 50, The Underground Tunnels. We are finally getting to the mysterious underground tunnels and what this could all mean for the investigation. I haven't seen too much on these tunnels being discussed. I mean, it's so low-key. Is it being kept under the radar by design? Because almost every other theory out there, you can find tons and tons of posts all over social media, on websites, YouTube, whatever. These tunnels, I mean, they've been mentioned a few times here and there, but very, very few, and only briefly. But this is Mindshock, where we explore every avenue of investigation and upturn every stone in hopes of getting to the truth in typical Mindshock fashion, with logic and reason at the forefront without falling for any logical fallacies. If you enjoy the podcast, find it interesting and informative, want to keep up awareness in all of these cases, cold cases, non-cold cases, for justice to be served, you can donate to our PayPal, help support the channel, help us get more mind-shocking content out there, and keep awareness up in all of these cases. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, and requests. You can also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if the notifications aren't coming through, just make sure you comment more on all of the videos. Apparently, that is how the YouTube algorithm works. If you do not comment, you might not get notifications, and YouTube might even unsubscribe you to the channel if there's not enough engagement. I don't know if that's glitchy or they do that on purpose. Whatever the case may be, that appears to be what it is. So do not hesitate to comment. You could even leave comments multiple times. YouTube spam does catch a lot that is not actually spam, and it is very time-consuming for me to go in there and have to dig them out of spam of tens of thousands of comments. So you can just leave your comment twice if you've noticed that they haven't been showing up. All right, so let's jump right in here. A few Mindshock listeners have mentioned the tunnels. I know about the tunnels reference. There's even a newspaper article about it, not in relation to the Delphi murders. But what is very, very curious, supposedly there's a tunnel right underneath the bridge and multiple other access points, not just along the trail, but rumor has it they might even go into town somewhere or near people's houses. And this is very, very mind-shocking for a number of reasons. I mean, this could actually potentially solve all of the timeline issues. Because whoever's coming and going, they don't have to be coming and going along the trail. With all, depending on how many tunnel entry points there are, I think there might only be a few that are confirmed, but who knows how many there really are? Who knows how many private properties may or may not have entrances to these tunnels, and how many tunnels there could be. So I am going to go off an anecdote in my own life where there was this old park. I mean, it wasn't super close to where I used to live, nowhere near Indiana, not in the Midwest, but just in general, a lot of parks have these old tunnels, whether they were former sewage systems that got abandoned or just access tunnels for maintenance workers. Or, I mean, I don't even know. Some of them had military purposes at certain parks. And, I mean, it's like 100 or 200 years ago, and they've since been completely abandoned and not used. In the park that I used to go to when I was a kid, it wasn't fenced up, so you could actually go into the tunnels. I never went too far because it was really scary as a young kid. It's all dark. But after X amount of years, they actually, I don't know if people got hurt or whatever the reason was, but they actually fenced off all the entrances to all of the main tunnels. But these tunnels at this park that I used to go to, I mean, this park was probably a few square miles. I mean, it was pretty big. It was like a state park. And some of these tunnels went, again, I didn't go through all of them. I don't even know how many they were. There were just a few different entrances that I saw all throughout the park. They actually also, there were exits, you know, up highway tunnels nearby and in just random streets. So I don't know how many people, I don't know how many parks, again, I haven't visited every single state park in every single state, but they're out there. I mean, I think everybody might have a park they've gone to that have seen some kind of sewer or maintenance access point that was very old. I mean, clearly big enough for any adult human to walk through. maybe not by much, depending on the tunnels, but some of them were kind of big. Like, you could actually walk several people side by side through the tunnels with a decent amount of headroom, depending on the tunnels. So to those that say it's impossible, it has nothing to do with anything, what I find curious is that it's not a major point of discussion. That's what I find curious, because if there's a tunnel underneath the bridge, possibly near the site where the bodies were ultimately found, and possibly at multiple other points, either even close to town, in town, or just on random people's properties, whoever would know about the tunnels, they would have easy access to multiple areas unseen because they'd be underground. Does this change the entire dynamic of the case? I believe it does, because if it's a local that knows about these tunnels, I mean, that literally changes everything. Now, let's jump right in here. This is one of the only, even on Reddit, I mean, I only found one thread where this is being discussed. This is over 3 years ago now. Is there a tunnel underneath the bridge? By Let Me Find Out Today on the Libyan Abbey subreddit. I found an old newspaper article from 1997 about the Monon High Bridge. It's an interesting read about the Delphi Preservation Society. One thing that has stood out to me in the paper is the mention of an interurban tunnel. Anyone have any knowledge about that? And why is it called interurban? I mean, what does that mean exactly? Like linking urban to non-urban areas? I mean, does it really link up in the town of Delphi to some kind of underground tunnel areas which could be close by to people's houses? And how many tunnel access points are there? I mean, are these extremely vast tunnel systems that go all over? I mean, is that why there are so many predators in this state? Because they know about the tunnels and they can link up? I mean, what if you had an ATV? Are some of these tunnels big enough to drive an ATV through? I mean, you could cover a lot of land, a lot of distance. Or even just a bicycle, just going top speed on a bicycle, no traffic, whatever. I mean, this is, and of course the main point is basically you can travel undetected. So does anybody's alibi, do any alibis even mean anything anymore regarding the people traveling on the surface on the trails of the Monon High Bridge Trail? Because if they can duck in and out of tunnels, I mean, we have Flannel Shirt Guy, we have the McCains, of course, that are involved in this preservation society. I mean, Ron Logan lives right there. I mean, you would have to assume he would know about the tunnels, right? But let's look at this article here. I mean, there's even a photo here. 59 hikers make their way down the incline where a railroad bridge on the old Monon Railroad line once spanned Old Indiana 25 on Main Street in Delphi. An interurban tunnel is underneath the bridge. I mean, this is in plain English. This is the Pharaoh's Tribune, Logansport, Indiana, December 29th, 1997. A Walk on the Mild Side article by Dave Kitchell. Nearly 100 take advantage of special holiday interpretive walks sponsored by the Delphi Preservation Society and Carroll County Wabash and Erie Canal Society. So that's the only excerpt referencing the tunnels here, but there's even a photo of people. And then just very generic information here. Dan McCain is also mentioned here. The turnout surprised Carroll County historian Charles Gerard, who quickly ran out of handouts he had planned to distribute to a much smaller crowd. And Dan McCain, another event organizer. Huh. So you would have to, I mean, is it possible they don't know about, I mean, the tunnels are mentioned in this article. You would have to think that the McCains know about the tunnel. Ron Logan knows about the tunnel. Would Garrett Kurtz, who grew up on Ron Logan's land, know about the tunnel? I mean, these are people that would have spent countless hours going over every inch of these properties and the trail. How would they not be familiar with these tunnels? Were the tunnels searched that night in the initial search? Some people believe the girls, if killed relatively quickly, it was in the tunnels. Now, would the tunnels also explain the lack of screaming heard above ground? Because those that believe they were really killed out in the open in the wintertime with no leaves on the trees where screams would easily travel great distances, I mean, not to mention visual line of sight, Yeah, that's a tough sell. I know a lot of the gullible goofs who just take on blind faith, whatever they see on the idiot box. They just believe whatever they're told. But any critical thinker who's utilizing logic and reason, you have to really ask the question, is it really a highly possible, plausible scenario that the girls were really killed out in the open like that? I mean, maybe they were. Again, this is Mindshock. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. It just seems like it's highly implausible based on the logistics and the basic laws of physics, not to mention common sense. Whereas if we factor in these tunnels, if something happened in the tunnels, if they, again, there's obviously no definitive proof they were killed even on that day. Some people believe they were killed the day before. Some people the day after. Again, we really don't know. Now, screams were heard at 2 a.m. that night. After the search was called off. Now, exactly where those screams came from, I don't think anybody knows. So, the questions here again regarding these potential tunnels. This changes everything. I mean, this really is the ultimate mind shock thus far. Because I hadn't really seen too much about the tunnels. People mentioned them, and I just didn't really spend enough time on it. I thought it might have been just one little tunnel somewhere that didn't mean anything. But if these really are interconnected tunnels, are there any locals who've actually been in those tunnels and know how they connect and how far-reaching they are? I mean, again, I don't know about Delphi, Indiana, but in other areas, I mean, there's miles and miles of tunnels in other areas all over. Some of them, are in public parks. Some of them are, again, also located, people that have large properties, they do have a tunnel entrance on their property. I mean, this isn't that shocking or that unbelievable in general. Again, I don't know the situation specifically at the Monon High Bridge. I've never been there. I've never been to Delphi. But any locals, do they know about the tunnels here? Gura Midog posted this in response on this thread. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I've read about the McCain brothers managing the Preservation Society following the efforts of their mother, a founder. There have been assertive efforts for U.S. towns to achieve conservation sustainability goals, 10-year plan for 2020, which have included expansion of publicly-privately owned green spaces. Fairly certain compliant towns receive funding for reaching goals, and while I am not accusing anyone of wrongdoing, I am aware of corruption around achievement of those green goals has occurred in the U.S., was one of the brothers on the trails February 13th. The Let Me Find Out Today posted, I believe one of the McCains were there. Yes, to my understanding, one of them is the flannel shirt guy. Dave, I think. I am not sure about the green goals. I know they work on the trails, and I'm sure they would have to be familiar with the trail regulars. So, again, yes, this is a theory that has been gone over. I went over the McCains in a previous episode. You can check that out, Flannel Shirt Guy and the McCains. Now, again, what role do the tunnels have? What role does Ron Logan and Ron Logan's land have? What about the neighbor's land? Is it possible, I mean, the Mears lot, which is right there, some people believe that there was a barn or some kind of outbuilding that the girls were taken to, possibly killed there, possibly not, then taken elsewhere. Is it possible there's some kind of tunnel entrance near there as well? Now, they took down the barn. I mean, is it possible they covered up that tunnel entrance? Again, maybe not the Mears lot, but other lots in and around it. Again, this is Mindshock. I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue. I am not claiming there are any tunnel locations anywhere. I am just going over this newspaper article, empirically verifiable by anyone, on newspapers.com. So, what does this all mean here? Apparently, there's another tunnel underpass which may not be connected to other tunnels under the Freedom Bridge or near the Freedom Bridge that is visible from the helicopter footage. And again, is it this one of these tunnels where it's a short tunnel, but there might be some kind of grate or possible entrance to other tunnels? And if you're not looking closely, you don't know about it. Because I've seen tunnels like that too. They appear to be just a short little tunnel underneath an overpass, but there's actually some kind of a small entrance that goes somewhere else. I mean, are there any urban explorers here on Mindshock? Any Mindshock listeners, urban explorers that know about all this stuff? Because I know underneath New York City, there's countless miles of tunnels. Some of them connect to sewer tunnels. Some of them don't. Some of them are just isolated tunnels on their own. There's a whole bunch of cool urban exploration videos on that, as well as many other areas. So, Is this the key here? Is this the big missing piece that's been there all along? You would have to think, obviously, law enforcement knows about it. Is there a reason it hasn't been discussed much and out in the open? Do they know that something happened using the tunnels, or there are POIs that knew about the tunnels? I mean, what about Chadwell, who did camping in that area? Would he know about the tunnels? I mean, how many people would know about the tunnels? I mean, people that were regulars, I mean, I don't know. Would they all know about the tunnels? The only other YouTube video I can find talking about the tunnels is Jackson Pierce. And August 1st, 2021, he posted this video. Could 4+ individuals be involved? Connecting it all. The Jackson Files, episode 10-8. And we're going to go over the segment here on the tunnels. He has another photo here, as well as an excerpt from the article on newspapers.com I just mentioned regarding the tunnel. And yeah, I mean, this is all very, very mind-shocking stuff here.
Oh, this I thought was interesting. I'm just including some stuff in here because it's very interesting. Like, before the murders in 2015, there was a Indiana State Police investigating a city of Delphi land purchase, and the mayor saying there was a mistake, and it was all over like a piece of land that was going to connect like a third of a mile of the trail to another part or something. Just thought that was interesting, and this does show that there's something underground. Like, I really have a strong suspicion that, like, the reason that the bodies weren't found when they were searching and then they ended up finding them, I believe, in an area they had already searched, is because they were hiding somewhere. They were hiding them somewhere, possibly in like an underground bunker or something. I know that they had, like, it says an interurban tunnel is underneath the bridge. This is an old article. I mean, I'm assuming that police would know if there was some kind of underground place there.
Okay, so what does this all mean? How does this all connect? Now, I'm not saying there's some kind of mass government conspiracy and local law enforcement is in on some kind of cabal. There's some kind of cabal where they would, some people do believe that. But if that's true, again, I'm not claiming it is, but if it's true, how badly would they want land connecting all the tunnels where they could funnel people for whatever cult-like activities? I mean, it seems like they would really want those tunnels and all the properties that connect the tunnels, would they not? Now, we're going really far into conspiracy land, but if that's true, does that explain everything? Does that explain how all these comings and goings at all hours, they could all be done under the radar covertly through the tunnels? And if the tunnels are a decent size, now we do have one image there of a bigger tunnel, but even if they're smaller, I mean, you could fit many people at once through those tunnels. You might be able to ride an ATV through the tunnels, or a bike, or whatever, dirt bike. I mean, you might even be able to ride a horse through it. I mean, depending on the size of the tunnel again. But yeah, it's really hard to just completely write off all the tunnels and all the possibilities that could possibly factor in the tunnels. Because, again, I mean, I don't want to go really far down these rabbit holes like the McMartin preschool scandal and Ted Gunderson and all of the, again, going back to Johnny Gosh and the tangled web there, all the way to Bohemian Grove. If you haven't checked out the Johnny Gosh series, make sure you check that out. Mindshock is the most comprehensive Johnny Gosh podcast series ever. New episodes actually dropping shortly as well. But how important would underground tunnels be to cults and, you know, involved in any kind of trafficking or snuff films or any of this just criminal insanity? It seems like they would be highly interested in these tunnels, would they not? Now, obviously, we also can't ignore just the high concentration of predators in the area, child predators, just violent criminals, etc., etc. I mean, there seems to be a very high concentration relative to population density in that area. What does it all mean? And there's just the rumors about the land. I mean, they've been ongoing since the beginning. Like, that's been all over the place. Not so much the tunnels, but just the land. The McCain brothers, Ron Logan's land, all these property disputes, some of them involving actual law enforcement or people connected to law enforcement. And then it's just crazy. And if a group were going to commit some kind of crime and they knew about the tunnels, would they use the tunnels? Like, let's think about that for a second. If this has something to do with a party at Ron Logan's or a party at the cemetery, there's locals involved. And obviously, I mean, not obviously, but one would think 100% of the Delphi population would not be in on this plan to murder children. I mean, this communal slaying theory, if I haven't brought it up specifically here in the Delphi murders, because I really think it wouldn't apply, but I don't know. Maybe that's just more an appeal to incredulity on my part. But in the Maura Murray case, there was a theory floated early on that it was some kind of communal slaying. And this small community, this small hamlet of Haverhill, New Hampshire, they somehow either took advantage of a stranded motorist and took her and killed her in some kind of capacity, either cult-related, a cult or not, just whatever their case may have been. And it was a communal slaying, so the entire community kept their mouth shut, and obviously not everybody in the community would know about it, but they would cover for the rest of the community. Now, if there's something weird like that going on in Delphi, I don't think there is. So the tunnels would be a covert way to get around as to not raise suspicion for all of the good folk of the area that would never be in on such a kind of a plot, and that aren't part of any of these cults or meth rings or any of this insanity in that area. If there is some kind of law enforcement complicity, they would know about the tunnels. They possibly would have something to do with these land purchases. And so, I mean, no matter how you look at it, it does seem that Ron Logan would have known things, regardless of whether he was directly involved or not. I mean, he would have had to have known about the tunnels, and he'd probably know about a lot of individuals that frequented the area. And what about Garrett Kurtz? I mean, people really aren't talking about Kurtz anymore. What is the deal with this guy convicted of murder who just happens to be extremely familiar with the piece of land these two girls were found on, regardless of where and when they were killed? Their dead bodies were found on Ron Logan's land, who a convicted murderer is extremely familiar with. What does this all mean? I just wanted to cover the tunnels aspect. Again, local people, are the tunnels, are they really just one or two little tunnels, and where do they connect? Even if it's just a little tunnel, I mean, the bodies could have been kept there if the tunnels were not searched during the search and then put back wherever they were found. But if the tunnels are more of a vast, long system that actually run either into town or across, miles, a mile, 2 mile, a couple miles in many different directions and link up in many different areas, highway underpasses. I mean, this changes absolutely everything. Because would this make sense of either Keegan Kline waiting for somebody, and that somebody could have been going through the tunnels and not spotted above ground, or seen maybe walking a portion of the trail and then not seen again because he's in the tunnel accessing other points? Is there a tunnel entrance next to the CPS building? Like, where exactly are the tunnels? Where do they link up? Like, if anybody actually has blueprints or anything that shows the tunnels, how many, exactly how long, where and when where all possible entrances are. That if that tunnel system does exist, I mean, this could explain a lot of pieces of this. I mean, that random hitchhiker. I mean, there's a lot that could be explained, especially if there's more than one perpetrator. But even if there's only one perpetrator, the tunnels could theoretically still be a factor. So that's it for now. In the next episode, I will be dropping one of the most mind-shocking theories yet, which, again, may even include the tunnels. The tunnels are now, as far as I'm concerned, the tunnels are a major factor and have to be on the table from this point on. So, but yeah, there's other theories. There's actually another murder that actually might link Evansdale and Delphi, so that I haven't gone over yet. We'll be going over those theories and further links between individuals like James Bryan Chadwell. Is he actually connected to the Kleins? there may be even more connections than previously thought there. And then we, of course, do have Richard Allen, who was arrested. Is he just going to be used as a patsy? Is he actually involved in the ring? Regardless, maybe he was involved in the kidnap. Maybe he was involved in a portion of the crime. But maybe he didn't actually kill them. But he was involved in some capacity or linked to some kind of ring. And they're just using him as the fall guy, and somehow if they all have incriminating evidence on each other, like Bohemian Grove style, they have a lot more stuff on him, so he's just going to have to go down for this, because if he doesn't, they're going to either, again, kill his family or expose other crimes that he actually is guilty of. I mean, in rings, this is how it goes down. Sometimes people are used as patsies. Again, I'm not saying that's the case here. I'm saying compared to other cases where this has happened, that's how those rings operate. The Johnny Gosch case, again, supposedly a lot of similarities in those types of rings and how they operate. So plenty more to cover, plenty more to discuss in this highly perplexing case where it's really difficult to make heads or tails of anything. But on Mindshock, we attempt to do so with logic and reason at the forefront and not falling for logical fallacies like all this mainstream coverage and all these other podcasts. So I hope you found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting and informative. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Support the channel that way. Make sure you're subscribed, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind. Leave them in the comment section. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.